right? It's obvious how much bigger and smaller it goes because the fence has what? Right angles on it. It's made out of right angles, and so you can say that fence is shaped that way. But see, when we look at that, and if we wanted to put a fence down here, make it a little lower fence this time, one that we could conceivably see into, that's the trick as far as how people get bigger or smaller on the beach. But you have to find some kind of average. You say if an average person is 5'5", or for simplicity's sake, 5 feet or 6 feet would work out. It doesn't make any difference because you're going to adjust these. But if there's your horizon line, and you've got a person who takes up this much space, they stand like so, whether that's 5'5" or 6 foot. Every person, remember this is 1 point perspective we're dealing with right now. Every person on that horizontal line is going to be about that size, right? Okay. What about a person standing there, or there, or there, or there? We could put them all over the place. The way you find out, it would help if you decided who was furthest away. You know, if you could get this person on a line like that, say they're going to be like a fence. Who would you use for your next measurement to establish how wide angle your lens is? I'd do this person. And what would I do? I would run a horizontal line from there to there and say that's where their feet are, and then I'd go up there and then run a vertical line up to the top and say that's where their head is, and they'd be in a place like that. Now notice, they're not on that same line. I would erase this structural line. See, this person over here is going to be this tall, and I'm going to run horizontal lines over there to find their height. And this person is going to be right on that line, and they're going to be that high. And this person's going to be how high there? Only 3 kinds of lines, folks. There you go. You can do that all over the place. Do you see how I found them? I built a fence that went like that, and then like that, and they can go like this. There's only 3 kinds of lines. The vertical ones, the horizontal ones, vertical, horizontal, and the ones that go back to the vanishing point. Taking a ride on one at a time of 3 sets of lines, which means what? In X-ray vision, we talked about seeing through things. When you've got an environment that you're trying to do this, you have to do something a little different. You have to impose right angles on the world. You have to see lines in the air. You go to the beach, and generally, unless there was an album cover, I can't remember whether it was Yes or one of those ones that Hypnosis did, where they had bodies, naked bodies, but there's all these lines and kind of geometric things going on. You have to see that way in order to figure out how that will diminish. The 3 sets of lines work as in 1, 2, or 3 point perspective as long as things are kept simple, that is level, and not tilted around in different directions. When they tilt around in different directions, let's take that room again. That's the back wall. Our eye level is there, vanishing point here, vanishing point here. There's that room. If we have that coffee table there, that's actually, I just did that in 2 point when in fact it's, you know what I've done? This wall I'm looking right at, this wall is not at right angles to it. I just did a beveled wall that looks sort of like that. I got confused between 1 and 2 point. So let's bring them together and make it 2 point. If that connects like so. There's a 2 point room. Now, if we put a coffee table in there that's at 1 point, it's going to be on the same horizon line because it's level. There's our coffee table. It's going to fit there. 1 point coffee table, 2 point room. And then we can put a chair in there that has a whole different set of vanishing points. Now do you see what's happening? Let's see, that will go like so. 1 point, 2 point room, 2 point chair, but a different set of, you can put things and spin them all over the place. What it means is that this chair, if it's built like most chairs, is going to be consistent. All this stuff I'm telling you about is going to work. If you got little notches and things that come out, they're going to conform to all that business. If you've got something that goes back, it's going to go to that vanishing point. Likewise, if this has got lines on it, they're all going to go to that. If we've got windows on here, they're all going to work with this set of vanishing points that make it conform to that. And likewise, I guess it's over here. The window over there is going to do the same thing. You've got several sets of vanishing points. And now it's no longer simple, right? You could have 10 sets of vanishing points. In this room, because these tables are all scattered around, each one has its own set. The two where Dan is sitting have the same set because they're right there as if they were connected to each other. That's where it gets more complicated. But can you see how you can simplify? Everything on here that is at right angles to itself, that little world, 3 sets of lines. This little world, 3 sets of lines. This big world, 3 sets of lines. Okay? When it starts to tilt, if there's a kid sitting in that chair and he's leaning back on it, then it will change, and we'll get to that later when we get to tilted planes, vanishing traces. Any questions about this? Okay, I have one more thing to say about this, and it is the hazards of this. There are 2 hazards. The first hazard is that you will understand this and use it and make spatial integrity. That is accurate placement at the risk of compositional integrity. I've done this many times, working out all of these problems to make it correct, to make it accurate, and the composition stinks. It doesn't have to be that way. The proof that it doesn't have to be that way is John Singer Sargent and Goya and Drew Struzan. Drew Struzan knows perspective. He knows how to place people correctly. Why do they not fail at it? It's something that we do this semester in the first hour and a half of class. Is that if you do a separate comp study where you're not concerned with accurate placement, you're concerned with creating an abstract that carries feeling. If you say, my compositional study is a good abstract that carries feeling, then you've solved the problem. All this accurate placement will not kill it, any more than Goya or Drew Struzan's work looks dead because it's accurately placed when it is. Okay, that's hazard number 1, that you'll make spatial integrity and violate compositional integrity. The solution to it is do a comp study where you don't think about perspective at all. Hazard number 2 is that you will, in doing all of this accurate stuff and doing your monster so that it conforms to the principles of simple shapes, is that you will end up making not living people or angry monsters, but robots, automatons. Right? Everybody looks like they're made out of plastic. In other words, making robots, because you're concerning yourself with draftsmanship, you make robots instead of making it come back alive. So, how do you solve this problem of making it come back alive? What exercise do you do? Like compositional studies are an exercise. What exercise do you do so that you don't make robots? What? Gesture drawing. Let me remind you, Leonardo da Vinci did all this stuff. Have you seen his preliminary drawings for his big paintings, where he works out the perspective of every stair of every detail in the environment where you've got horses and people in battle. He works out all this complex placement, but you would never say that it's a bunch of robots. And you would never say that about Rembrandt's work, and you'd never say that about Rubens' work. Rubens' stuff is dynamic and alive, and the people look like they're animated inside fleshy bodies. But there is a risk that when you're doing this, you end up not killing the composition, that's one problem, but killing the people, killing the characters and making them robots. The way you solve that problem is do gesture drawings. And next semester, we will do that for the whole semester. That'll be the first thing we do in class, is we'll do gesture drawings of figures in motion.